is where it all started concerning management plans, and management effectiveness. And we started on a reverse way. We started with evaluation of effectiveness before even knowing well how to draft a management plan. But this is to say that we can anyhow talk about effectiveness. Management effectiveness was introduced by IUCN at level of marine protected areas in 2002. And as it was a partnership which encompassed also WWF, we had the chance at that time to be among the test sites for the evaluation of effectiveness on in experimental phases, and thus gave us the opportunity to bring the results to the Ministry of Environment at the time again, and to start experimenting the IUCN methodology in several other marine protected areas in Italy. More or less the same scheme which was adopted for management planning a few years before on a more restricted number of MPAs. So I will try to go through this methodology, which is already well established, well known, and I will try to be a little bit fast, not too heavy, as manuals are already available and widespread. So who is interested can directly access to this methodology going through the manuals, which have been translated in Italian, French, Spanish, and Arabic. So they are very well known and available. The overall goal of management effectiveness is quite clear. It is to help improving the work we are developing in each MPA. And it could be used by a single MPA or by a network, national network, or even eco-regional network of MPAs. The methodology is standard, and it works even if there is no management plan already in place. The definition of what is an evaluation, MEE, management effectiveness evaluation, is the assessment of how well protected areas are being managed. Primarily, the extent to which management is protecting values and achieving goals and objectives. What is clear is that we can work following goals and objectives even if we do not have a proper management plan, as the management body is there to develop a work. So this work can be done even without a properly named management plan. It was our situation at that time. We did not have a real management plan, and anyhow our goals, objectives were clear, even if we do not have the knowledge, the experience on how to draft a document, such a document. The methodology, yes, you go through questionnaires with indicators. This is the way it works, to assess various aspects of the management of a protected site or network of protected areas. This is the guidebook I was talking about. It was edited, for the final version was edited in 2004. As WWF was among the partners, they decided to pick Miramare to to start testing the guidebook before it was published. At that time, it was my colleague Marco Costantini, now it works with WWF International, which run this activity on, under Miramare MPA. So what we have done in these 2 years with the Minister of Environment, we get in touch with Torre Guaceto, not Torre Cerrano, it is the tower next below Torre Cerrano, Torre Guaceto, Isole Ciclopi, Sicily, Sinis, e Tor Paterno, Secche di Tor Paterno here near Rome. And it was a collaboration between the ministry. We had the support of Mr. Oliviero Montanari for this work, Federparchi, and WWF Italy. At this time, we just finished the experimental phase with IUCN before the guidebook being published, and with the lesson we learned on the ground, we came in touch with the ministry and started this approach, getting in touch with the other MPAs to start to collaborate in search and analysis. This is the way an MEE, Management Effectiveness Evaluation, works. We start by selecting the indicators. We plan the evaluation. We conduct the evaluation. We communicate the results and, in case, adapt management, in case there is a management plan. Now, how the guidebook is built and works. The methodology is issued by IUCN. It is quite simple, although the work was not simple. They listed the goals and objectives. Goals is the broad category of a certain number of objectives. Goals and objectives on 3 issues. Biophysical, socioeconomic, and governance issues concerning the MPA. And for each of these 3 issues, they set a certain number of goals, broad goals intended to cover all the known situation in the IUCN context. And with more details, the objectives. And they made this work, several goals. This is only the first one of biophysical approach. And we have a set of goals and objectives for each of the 3 themes: biophysical, socioeconomic, and governance. Having done this work on what are the goals and objectives commonly given to an MPA, they started selecting the proper indicators. We will see them. And then they issued for each of these indicators the methodology, guideline methodology and references for each of the proposed indicators, which are suitable for goals and objectives. And it was, in fact, it was a huge work of collecting methodologies, selecting goals and indicators, and then test it on the ground and produce the guidebook. Well, the very first one under the biophysical team, goal 1, marine resources sustained or protected. And for such a goal, you get a list of objectives. Population of target species for extractive or non-extractive use restored or to maintain at desired reference points, and so on. You can go through, it is lists of goals and objectives. This means that each MPA has to recognize the work they are developing under one of these points, and then pick the appropriate indicator and follow the methodology. We are always under the biophysical team, goal 2, biological diversity protected. This is the goal, and with more details, we get the objectives, and so on. You got goal 3, individual species protected, habitat protected, degraded areas restored. And again, you have to imagine here the objectives of each one of these goals. The full list is on the manual, of course, and then the MPA has to, in case, recognize the work they are doing among the list of provided goals and indicators, which are meant to cover most of the situations, known situations around the world. Then they provide, having made the list of goals and objectives, they provide a list of suitable indicators to match these goals and objectives. Concerning the biophysical team, we have indicator 1 to 10, focal species abundance, focal species population structure, habitat distribution and complexity, and so on. And this is the low-quality snapshot, screen capture of the table, which is a full page, on how the biophysical indicators relate to the common goals and objectives. You got the 5 goals here, each one with its own objectives, and then you have to find which is the pursuant indicator for your objective. So when you have defined, when you have picked one or more suitable indicators, for instance, objective 1D matches several indicators, you can pick among the more suitable of these indicators what you think is more compliant to your situation. You go through the rest of the book, of the guidebook, and you get the methodology for each of these indicators. References, methodology, how to collect hints and everywhere and everything you can need, and all the information which is needed to start a monitoring plan in advance. So if you consider this methodology as a bundle of the management planning, you can be able to build your own monitoring program after these indications. You got the methodologies, the time frame, all the equipment needed, and so on, indicated for each one of the tests you will be you will be providing a long time in the monitoring phase of your work. So just to consider the other two teams, this was biophysical. Well, the approach is exactly the same for the other two teams, socioeconomic and governance. Of course, goals, objectives, and indicators are different. But again, once you choose the most appropriate indicator, you can get the methodology and all the hints in the same guidebook. Concerning socioeconomic, goal 1, food security enhanced or maintained. Consider that this methodology is IUCN. It is intended to cover worldwide MPAs. So in this case, we are talking about a socioeconomic aspect for MPAs in which the population relies on fishing, on food, on fish food, and then nutritional needs are granted to the local population. Probably in our MPAs in the Mediterranean region, we will not use this indicator. But anyhow, this is just to give an idea on how the methodology, the intent of IUCN was to cover the whole set of known MPAs. Goal number 2, livelihoods enhanced or maintained. And again, for each of these goals, you have the objectives, which are more detailed and focused. Goal number 3, non-monetary benefits to society enhanced or maintained. This is ecosystems services. Benefits from the MPA equitably distributed. Compatibility between management and local culture maximized. Environmental awareness and knowledge enhanced. We have been working a lot on these goals and objectives. So this is the set of socioeconomic indicators. And again, we will find, and in the next slide, the table connecting indicators to goals and objectives. But this is the set of indicators. You have quite a lot. We had previously 10 indicators for the biophysical aspect. We have 16 concerning socioeconomic aspects of the management of an MPA, and so on. For instance, perceptions of seafood availability, perception of local resources, harvest, number and nature of markets, and so on. This is the matrix. You understand it is less complex than the other matrix. This is why we had less indicators in the table of biophysical indicators. Anyhow, here you get, again, the crossing of indicator and goals and objectives. And once you pick the appropriate indicator, you have the reference to the methodology. Last, governance. This is where we all have to put the effort. Goal 1, goal 2, and so on. Goal 1, effective management structures and strategies maintained. And the very first objective, management planning implemented and process effective. they put it at the first place. Anyhow, they put this objective at the very first place. And so on, you have the objectives pursuant to goal 1. Goal 2, effective legal structures and strategies for management maintained. This is for the legal aspect if, for instance, institutional decree is available, regulation has been approved by the ministry, and so on. All the legal aspects. Goal 3, 4, and 5. Effective stakeholders' participation. Management plan compliance by resource users is enhanced. So there is less poaching. And one key point, resources use conflicts. They are managed or reduced. Last set of indicators, the governance indicators. Again, a bunch of them, 16 indicators. This is quite important. Level of resource conflict. Existence of a decision-making and management body. Existence and adoption of a management plan, and so on. You have the list. Last table, summary table, governance indicators linked to the goal and objectives. Well, this is how the IUCN guidebook works, and we've been testing it in 2002-2004 in Miramare for the aspect pursuant to Miramare management, even if at that time we didn't have a proper management plan, but anyhow we were knowing what were our intentions, what we were there to do, although we didn't have a proper management plan. This is why the methodology of, from time to time, taking time to look at what has been done is useful to correct and get a better job done in the future. The last slide for this aspect is what we have sorted at the end of the evaluation of that time in 2007 with Torre, Guaceto, Sinis, Ciclopi, Secche di Tor Paterno, and Miramare MPAs. This is the set of indicators we were working on. Socioeconomic indicators, governance indicators. Each of the MPA has picked from the list of indicators provided by the guidebook, run the exercise, and reported. And you have a score, which is a green, a yellow, and a red label, or data not enough data insufficient or not available. So clearly, we get the indication on where, Miramare, for instance, in my case, we had the indication on where to develop a better work. This is typically the case, applying such a methodology is typically the case when you are close to the loop of a management cycle. You start, well, although planning and selecting indicators, you do it quite fast, but at the end you have to go on the field and start measuring the indicators, and this is requesting time. So you'd better plan it in advance. This is, in a few words, the methodology for producing a management effectiveness evaluation. We were proud at the time being able to achieve this work, and then became the methodology for drafting the management plan, which led to Sodecri and ISEA approach. As we were proud of the work we developed with the other 4 marine protected areas in Italy, we took the methodology to MedPAN and IUCN Med and give birth to that quick evaluation guide, which relies on the IUCN methodology. But it is to bring these indicators, this set of indicators, in a spreadsheet, in an automatic way, should I say, the report concerning the effectiveness evaluation. This was my colleague Milena Tempesta, Maria Otero, which developed this work. The added work we gave it is the scorecard in an Excel sheet. The manual, the methodology is the other book, the IUCN guidebook, but we added the spreadsheet, the Excel spreadsheets, in which every indicator proposed as its measurement, scoring system, and interpretation. This is the way to collect a long time, or in the same time on several places to collect the evaluation information. The use of Excel format allows a quick and easy compilation with the final assessment of the indicator that is automatically counted and colored, and it gives a report, final report, for final marking of the MPA. This is how the spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheets are organized, the scorecards. We have 3 areas: the score area, the very first one, context, and indicator. This is in order to provide more detail, more information than not the evaluation itself. The evaluation, the way it is meant by the former manual, IUCN manual, just stops here. By adding a context area, we can give evidence to problems in carrying out the activity of evaluation, lack of means, lack of funding, whatever can happen. Or several issues concerning the use of the indicator. Some suggestion for a better use. And then you recognize here goals and objectives as named in the IUCN guidebook. And what we provided is the way of marking. And then giving a final score and a color code which goes in the final report for each of the indicators selected. Anyhow, in the score area, you have a justification to the answer to the relative question based on the evidence of documents or on a qualitative description followed by indication of data. This is the work the evaluator is doing. Where there are no data available, measurable, we give an indication on the trend. We do not know how many individual of a species is present in a site, but we can give an indication: is the trend going up, down, or remains stable, on the basis of the same answer referred to the past years. This is the way each indicator is approached in the Excel scorecard. Let's see more in detail the score area, seawater quality. All parameters are under the reference level, yes. Note mark 1 for yes and 0 for no, yes. Total score 1. Additional points, 1 for yes. If some parameters are over the reference level, action taken to better investigate the parameters, no needed. Action taken to solve at least partially the problem, no. Additional score 0, total score 1. And then, on the basis of what we say, we give 1. And an evaluation, a qualitative evaluation of the data provided. The last two columns, we will see later, the indicator area, are dedicated to insert comments or on problems related to apply the indicator and the suggestions and recommendation to ameliorate the indicator, its measurement and interpretation. As this is still a learning approach, any comment or suggestion can be of outstanding importance. You have column context area, indicator area. All the three columns, the blue, the green, and the yellow one, go together under the same indicator. Scores and color code. Well, the score is not relevant by itself. It is only used to provide the final color, and as the message, the given message goes on the code color code. So the numbers are not important, and they only are used to provide the technical indication for building the final table. Blue is the best score, indicator fully complied, green, yellow, and red. Well, in case of negative results, nobody will cancel your protected area, but it is just the way. It indicates the way where the work has to be done. What happened for Miramare? We went again under this evaluation. We are working on 6 key targets for conservation. If you remember the green boxes on the right side of the conceptual model. Sharks, turtles, and dolphins. Frog, the bird. Communities of the tidal zone. Reef communities. Coastal detrital biocenosis. This is the muddy, sandy, muddy bottom. Seagrass and sandy seabed. These targets are reached through 6 strategies. Education and awareness, 5 objectives and 5 indicators. Strategy number 2, surveillance. Biological, physical, and fishery monitoring. Strategy number 4, networking, marine and coastal protected areas. And then lobbying and fundraising. These are the strategies which are linked to the targets of conservation through the conceptual model. But each strategy comes along with objectives and indicators. And we get some, by heart, 14 or 16 indicators at that time. These indicators are the one we found in IUCN guidebook. Well, 14. Ce que vous me demandiez tout à l'heure, climate change. Il est là. Well, these are the 14 indicators we've been using for this exercise. And this is our score. We have still a lot of work to do. For instance, local perception of the MPA. We are not good to work with stakeholders. Again, coordination with stakeholders and planners, bad. And so on. This is the snapshot of the situation at Miramar MPA and the indication to how to better develop our work.